Hello, my name is Teresa and I'm a writer from Cornwall in the UK. I was supposed to do this little talk yesterday as part of Our Own Rights virtual book fair, but unfortunately, due to a power cut in the village, I wasn't able to do it as we had no internet. So this morning I thought, well, better late than never, so I've decided to do it now. I'm here to talk to you about my story, Archie, a ghost story, which was published yesterday in the collection from Crowvus, A Ghost for Christmas. And all the stories are chosen via a contest which they run every year. The inspiration for my story happened several months ago when I saw a news item on our local news about a dog who'd been abandoned under quite unusual circumstances. And this preyed on my mind a little because I love dogs, and we always had dogs in my family growing up, and as an adult I've had two wonderful rescue dogs. I kept wondering how these circumstances had come about and what might have happened afterwards. I wrote it down in my little notebook, but I didn't do anything with it until I saw an ad for Crowvus's ghost story contest, and I decided to work it into a ghost story and submit it to them. And so I was really pleased when it was chosen. I'll read you a little bit from it in a moment, but first a little bit more about my writing. I write mostly mysteries and adventures, often set in Cornwall, as I find it a very inspiring place to live. We have lots of rugged scenery, coastlines and moors, and lots of spooky places too, lots of myths and legends. My first novel came out in February, just in time for lockdown, which rather scuppered my promotional efforts, but at least it's out there, so I'm pleased about that. That is a time travel adventure for children and young adults called The Time Crystals. And my second novel, The Mystery of Acorn Academy, is also set in Cornwall, and it is due out early next year with the publisher Authors Reach, which is authorsreach.co.uk. Okay, I'll read you a little bit from my story. I need my glasses for this. Archie. Jane met Archie in late November, a year to the day since the death of her husband. Although she'd never considered herself sentimental about dates and anniversaries, it had hit her hard. She found herself staring through the window as she washed the morning dishes, remembering how Jeff had loved that view of the woodland. Minutes went by as she stood, quite motionless, tears cooling on her cheeks. The day was frosty and still, and Jane decided a brisk walk might shake off the melancholy. She strode along the sunken green lane behind the pub, a solitary figure in winter coat and boots. At the end, in no mood to return home, she took the footpath cutting up through the stubbly fields, empty now of the century-like corn which had flourished in the summer. Before cancer had bent him double, she and Jeff loved to explore the countryside around here, particularly the old church behind the rows of yews and skeletal oaks. She'd avoided going there without him. It seemed wrong somehow. Today, by contrast, Jane felt oddly drawn to the place, as though something compelled her to take a look. Shadowed by the trees, she inched along a path overgrown with bracken and bramble. She squeezed through the gate, which stood rotting on its hinges. The church itself had long since fallen into decay, and only a couple of tumble-down granite walls remained. Fragments of slate from the roof littered the ground. The air smelled of damp leaves, and the yews seemed to watch silently, unstirred by the slightest ruffle of breeze. Ascending 3 stone steps, a noise made her pause, instantly alert. Quiet sobbing, coming from behind the tallest wall. This place was so remote, Jane shouldn't investigate alone, but no way could she ignore those plaintive cries. She crept further, a quickening in her chest, a tingling at the nape of her neck. The sound grew louder. It wasn't sobbing. She could tell that now, more like the whimper of an animal. Behind the moss-covered wall, a dog stood tied to a pillar. Fur totally black, ears pointed like a fox's. Secured by a string threaded through a tatty collar, a dirty plastic bowl lay overturned, just out of reach. The dog stopped whimpering and raised sad, droopy eyes. The thin tail gave a slight movement, as though the dog wanted to greet her, but was too dejected or weak to give a full wag. Jane's surprise turned to anger. Who could leave a dog in this isolated place? How long had the poor thing been here? From the skinny ribs showing through matted black fur, it might have been days. She moved forward slowly, holding out her hand. "It's all right," she whispered. The dog remained motionless, staring into her eyes. Didn't seem afraid, just exhausted and glad to see us all. She bent down and the dog sniffed her fingers. She stroked its neck, hot to the touch. Then she noticed a scrap of paper tucked into the collar. She tugged it out, unfolded it, and read the spidery message. "Please look after Archie. Things have taken a bad turn for me. Can't look after him anymore." Jane frowned, then dropped to her knees beside the dog and gave him a gentle hug. He leaned into her, quivering slightly. "Hello, Archie," she said. Okay, that's the beginning of my story, and like I said, it was published yesterday in A Ghost for Christmas by Crowvus. If you'd like to find out any more, please get in touch with me. I'm always glad to hear from readers and other writers. You can find me easily on here on Twitter or on Facebook, my Teresa Bassett page, also via authorsreach.co.uk or via my own website, teresabassett.co.uk. And I'd like to thank Crowvus for including my story. And thank you for listening, everybody. Goodbye.